Okay, let's double check that we are live here. Yeah, all right. Welcome to Fireside Chat number 245. Not a ton to go over right now. I'd say number one thing announcement from 5 days ago. The new library channel is out. So, like the gallery channel that came out pretty recently, I put this library channel together using the Discord forum channel function. So it's got basically everything in terms of history, lore, sagas, Dane Edda, New Edda, etc. Um, I'm not going to say it has all of our history. Actually, I may have said that somewhere, but technically, no. I always recommend people to go on the forums because the current set of forums that I've been maintaining are going on more than 13 years of posts in history right now. So you can go on there and read anything, whether it's the spam forums or game forums, or you can read the old All Thing subforum chat. All of that stuff is on there. So if you're interested in history from a more detailed or on the ground perspective, that's really the place to go. That said, all the stuff that is on there in terms of historical documents, like treatises that have been written about different subjects in WA history, actual timelines, of course, songs, stories, sagas, all of that kind of stuff. That is all on the forums as well, and in the library channel on Discord. So if somebody wants to kind of jump into WA history or especially lore, the library channel on Discord is a great place to go. But as well, you'll see linked in every single thread on there is a link to the corresponding thread in the forum, so you can kind of jump back and forth between. I know a lot of people forget their forum passwords or this or that. I can always reset those. There's supposed to be a password reset function on the forums, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to work. I want to say it's worked for one or two people, but it seems like generally it doesn't. So usually, I just set a password for somebody, tell them what it is, and then tell them to change it. Kind of manual password reset that way. But I always encourage people to check out the forums. That is a requirement for. Actually, I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say Chief Petty Officer. It's either Chief Petty Officer or Master Chief Petty Officer. Let's see. Honestly, it's something that doesn't usually come up because usually somebody gets to Master Chief Petty Officer, they've already made a forum account because they've invested enough time and care enough that they probably were curious anyway and wound up on the forums. Let's see. Chief Petty Officer. Yeah. Okay. So if you're looking to reach that rank, not a bad idea anyway to register on the forums. We don't require people to use them or anything, especially at this point. They don't see very frequent use at all, especially compared to what they saw years and years back. But I maintain them really as a historical archive at this point more than anything. Yeah. So that new library channel is there. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. If you need help navigating it, I'm more than happy to help. I'm really passionate about all that stuff, of course, so I'm happy to talk about it and answer questions. As far as if you're looking on, maybe what should I read, since there's a lot of things in there, I'd say probably a good start would be the sagas if you're interested in kind of the lore side of things. Otherwise, I'd recommend the timelines, especially the WA timeline volume 1 and 2 are nice because they are pretty short. You don't have to kind of wade through a lot of detail, but they can give you a good idea of important events and kind of help you chart out the whole of WA history. A few others I would recommend would be the abridged history of WA that I wrote. That is probably the number one thing if you're interested in history. There's some other things like History of the Clans is like a classic text of WA, but I would say abridged history is a little bit easier to read and a little bit shorter and less detailed. It's still got a fair amount of detail in it, so I think it's kind of a pretty good middle ground for just understanding WA history. So I would say that, and then if you're curious for more of the historical side, a lot of the treatises are pretty good. Some of them are kind of specific, so I mean, For example, there's a treatise on the White Knights of House Dippity. That's kind of something that, if you're in House Dippity and you're curious about that kind of stuff, it might be a cool read. Because I'm the only one that's written any treatises to this point. Um, there's a little bit of a Dippity lean to them, but yeah, there's some others. There's one on the Sundering, which I would definitely recommend. Leadership and Loyalty. Those are both recent ones I wrote that I'm pretty proud of. Fall of the Imperium, I think, is a pretty good one too. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that gives you some idea of some of the things you can look through. Just to recap, I'd say timelines if you kind of want a timeline of history to kind of get introduced that way. Otherwise, sagas for the lore side, and I'd say abridged history of WA for the history side. And you can jump into some treatises if you're curious beyond that. But all that stuff is in the library channel on Discord, which I really recommend people checking out. Other than that, I'm pretty sure I went over all this stuff last time. If not, of course, congrats to Bassivold Warrior of the Month and the Teutonic Order StarCraft Platoon of the Month, Kerrigan's Brood voice channel. They have named that as their prize for being Platoon of the Month. Beyond that, coming up, we will have, well, a bit on the horizon, but not so far. A little over a month and a half away is actually going to be our clan's 22nd anniversary. So we are planning things for that. If you have anything that you want to do specifically for the anniversary to celebrate, I'm certainly all ears. I think it would be cool to have kind of multiple different celebrations going on across our different platoons and games, but usually we have a Hjor thing, a house competition. I did want to kind of give a forewarning because a lot of people get very excited about your things. I'm pretty committed to having a big event like that for the anniversary, but given the way the houses are going right now, as far as Dippity is just flourishing, thanks to the efforts of our members recruiting and being active and encouraging everyone, which has been great to see. So I really appreciate all of that. But unfortunately, the other houses are not in a very good state, in varying states of disrepair, I would say, just to be honest. So, I mean, we've been talking behind the scenes about ways to fix that, ways to help out some of the other houses, but it's really unfortunate, and I think it would be unfortunate to have a house war that is not very close or competitive with even at least two different houses. I'm not sure, maybe it would be, but we are discussing potentially having a sort of free-for-all competition rather than a house war, which is something that we did for Yule. I believe it was Yule of late 2019. I think that was when we did it. So potentially we could do something like that where we get like a top 10 leaderboard and you can challenge anyone who signs up for the competition rather than just people from different houses. It's something I've brought up. I'm not promising that we're going to do that. We could potentially do a house war, but I think just given the state of things, it might be better to do something like that until hopefully we have some of the other houses in more healthy states. Yeah, so kind of a fair warning about that. I know maybe a bit of a bummer for people that are looking forward to house wars, but I think wouldn't be much of a house war potentially with just the balance of power right now, as far as I can tell. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hey, one of the houses could explode in the next month, and in a good way, and potentially maybe we will have a house war. We'll see. I think that's gonna about do it, though. Oh, just a heads up, I've been working on the House Dippity Night Order behind the scenes. Actually been making a fair bit of progress on that, so I'm pretty excited about that and where it's going. Made a fair bit of progress with that. Actually rediscovered some, I've got a WA folder with a billion things in it, and a lot of times I forget some of the stuff that's in there. Actually discovered some old White Knights of House Dippity documents that I didn't remember that I had, so that's actually helped because, to give some insight, we're kind of looking at moving forward with a new Night Order for House Dippity rather than reactivating the White Knights. I mean, to clarify, the White Knights still exist. All the people who were White Knights are still White Knights, but we don't maintain, the operations and activity as a night order that we did back in the day. It's more of a title at this point. Not to say that it will never be reactivated, but it's considered kind of retired or at least dormant for the time being. So what we're focusing on is making a new night order, but keeping in mind our past and some of the stuff that made the White Knight special. Certainly, that's really something that I'm trying to keep in mind putting this stuff together, is making something new and cool and unique, because I don't want to step on the other house's toes, even though the other, Jade Falcon's Rangers are not really active either. I don't want to just like grab some of their lore and ideas and say, okay, this is ours now. I want to really establish something new and unique that could exist alongside them if those other night orders revive as well. So that's kind of something that I've been working on. That's kind of the priority right now. I do this a lot, but I will shout out the job board channel too under library. Maybe a little easier to find because the library channel, the old New Edda library and Dane Edda channels have all been deleted, basically just not deleted, but merged into the new library forum style channel. So maybe it's a little easier to find the job board now. Maybe not, but there's a few things in there, quite a few actually, that I or others could use help with. So I would really appreciate it if anybody would like to look through that, if they've got some time and inclination and motivation to help WA. And hey, get yourself some promotions and some goodwill, maybe some marks, who knows what could happen. A lot of jobs to do in that channel. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'll be around for my office hours shortly. Otherwise, I'll be back next week at the usual time.